I fell in love many times these months, with certain evenings, the city awash in green Neptune light. When I was low, and the city welcomed it, wrestled a steady heat from my melancholy. To be Shanghaied once meant to be kidnapped against your will? What in the...
To get full access to this poem, please subscribe.
Subscribe? You're a poetry site for Alright, let's get this out of the way for anyone who's fairly new. Majors are basically the World Cup for Counter-Strike, the Super Bowl, the NBA Finals. This is a big boy tournament. It's every Counter-Strike player's dream to win one of these. So every Counter-Strike team, very good and very mediocre, buttons their shirts, zips their pants, ties their shoes, and locks the fuck in for this. We've already gone through the earliest stage of the qualifier for the RMR.
We're coming to China,
which has left us with 56 teams. These teams are split into 3 categories depending on their locations. We have the Asian RMR. No disrespect, they're kind of like the Weenie Hut Jr. of the 3 regions. Take Mongols out though, they're like the bouncer at least. That's disrespectful. Next up, we have this godforsaken region. I got no words for you freaks. Definitely the chum bucket of the 3. And next up, we got the salty spittoon of the 3. The tanks, a warthog even. The EU RMR. You know that bald ass dude in front of the salty spittoon? That's Navi. There are 32 teams in the EU RMR, only 14 come out. There are 16 in the NA RMR, only 7 come out. And there are 8 teams in the Asian RMR, only 3 come out. And obviously winning the major would be cool, but for a lot of these teams, these RMRs are going to be the most important part of the entire event. Because if you make it through here, you get stickers in the game, which generates millions and millions of dollars in revenue, a portion of which goes directly to the teams and players. Making the major literally keeps orgs and teams alive and gives the players a fat payday. So yeah, this is incredibly important. And truly any team can make it through this, which is why it's so exciting to watch. Well, probably besides you and you and you. I would be really surprised if any of you made it through. Now that we have that out of the way, I'm gonna give an in-depth breakdown for every region, talk about their teams, the odds they have to make it through. This may be an absolutely monstrous video. I will also get an absolutely monstrous boner if you subscribe. Alert! Alert! Important announcement! Do you want a sick new knife glove combo? Or just a way to flex on your teammates as you go triple negative? Then go check out today's sponsor, Skins Monkey. Skins Monkey is an instant skins trading site with a huge selection of skins, low commissions, and a simple search filter system, making trading for skins easy, fast, safe, and cheaper than ever. All you have to do is hit the link in the description, and what's this? 5 free dollars. Then you have to sign into Steam, enter your trade link, and make sure that inventory's public. Hit the free $5 at the top of the screen and use code GARMER. Then by God, you're ready to trade your skins. Oh yeah, and you see this goofy little window down here? The more you trade, the more money you get. I could get a shiny new Karambit just like that. But let's say you're attached to your skins like it's your baby blanket. That's no problem at all. You can add a balance with up to a 35% deposit bonus. Holy guacamole. They also have a freebies tab where you can get skins completely free of charge. Go get some shiny new pixels on Skins Monkey today. Back to the video. Let's start off with the most obvious team. It would be an absolute travesty if the Mongols did not make it through this. And you know what? I will give you my guarantee they do make it through. There's just no way they don't. They are absolutely the kings of the Asian region right now. And to be fair, their results have been very up and down lately. But I expect them to not only make it through the RMR, but easily the opening stage as well. After that, who knows, to be honest. Their star rifler Senzu has been incredible the past 3 months with a 1.12 rating. Blitz has a 1.10. 910 has had a 1.09. Mizzino a 1.04. And Techno a 1.03. And remember guys, we're using HLTV rating 2.1. So we have to kind of reprogram our brains when we look at these now. Everything's just going to be a little bit lower. You love to see Senzu and Blitz up there, but to be honest, as the Opera, you'd like to see 910 a little bit higher. If he activates for this tournament, they could easily make a deep run and make top 8. And to be honest, once you look at 910 stats, they just tank every single time the Mongols play Nuke. Otherwise, he's pretty good most of the time. I mean, this is his rating over the past couple Nuke matches they've played. Not a phenomenal map for Oppers, so I get it. But yeah, Mongols 100% to make it through. Next up, we have Alter Ego. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I don't know that much about this team, but what I do know is they have Tyloo legend Bonneton on their roster. From 2017 to like 2022, this guy was the Grim Reaper in the Asian region. Just an absolute demon. And it looks like Buddy still got it, even at the ripe old age of 29. In esports, that's nursing home status. Put this dude in a wheelchair. In today's game, if you're not dropping 1.5 ratings on HLTV as an 8-year-old, your career's over. I'm playing, guys. I'm playing. 29's young. It's young, okay? God, get off my back, Gramps. If we look at their recent results, they've been bullying God's Reign, Niori, Dua United, Forward, Revenge, Ani, some very big names in the scene, guys. Lost 1-2 to Rare Adam, 2024 Tyloo. Oh, then after that, they do not have an official for 5 years, so we're working off a fairly small sample size. I mean, they just created this roster in August. They are only doing this for the sticker money. Minus respect points, and it's not like it even matters. I give Alter Ego a 6% chance to make it through, and even that might be a little too generous. Bonneton by himself boosted it up by like 4%. I'm grouping these two teams up together because they have a 0% chance to make it through. GR and Talon. Let's start with GR. Who are you people? Your upper has a 0.99 rating. You lost to 2024 Tyloo. Get out of my face. Next up is Talon, who also just made their team for the sticker money, but they get extra respect points because they have Azure. He is an Australian legend and their in-game leader. Holy shit, guys. They actually might have cooked with this roster. Hold on. So they have an Azure a little after his prime. That's fine. It's not like his brain turned to mush just because he's a couple years older. And he actually kind of used to be an elite caller. In 2019, 100 Thieves peaked at the 5th best team in the world. JKS and Jacob are obviously great players, but Azure absolutely elevated this roster with his calling. Plus, Talon did what FlyQuest should have done months ago. They imported a European Opper. Listen, I already know what you're gonna say. Alistair just said that Elite ESL Challenger Atlanta event. Listen to yourself, man. He has a 0.83 rating over the past 3 months against top 20 opposition as the Opper. Anyways, I actually kind of like MHL as their Opper. He wasn't phenomenal on Falcons, but then again, who has been good on Falcons? He's got a 1.17 rating over the past 3 months, a lot of which is against European teams. I know it's not incredible competition, and there are some lower tier Australian teams in there, but it's impressive nonetheless. I don't know, man. I kind of like this roster. Call me crazy. But they did just get dumpstered by Navi Jr. I gotta bump up their odds to above Alter Ego at least. 7% chance they make it through. Might as well do the other Australian team. FlyQuest are the best team in Australia. They just won ESL Challenger Atlanta, which isn't anything like too crazy, but it's nice to see them win something. I would also be very surprised to not see them make it through. They do tend to bomb out of S-tier events. Luckily for them, this RMR includes one S-tier team. Ins has been a demon for them over the past 3 months. I really like Vexite as a player. He's been really good. Dexter can frag and is a pretty decent caller. So, I mean, they are a fairly good team, but I do have a little bit of animosity towards them because this same exact team played in the Asian RMR for the last major, and they ended up bombing out against Lin Vision, which completely destroyed Greyhound, the org they were playing under. Greyhound were a legendary team, man, and I don't know for sure, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't this org completely owned and operated by just one guy as a passion project? It's shitty to place the blame on the players for that because obviously they tried their best. Just a sad situation. The main point that I'm trying to make, this same team just bombed out of the RMR earlier this year, and while I think they got a lot better, I think their competition also got better. Even with all of that, I'm giving FlyQuest a 93% chance to make it out. I can only see one thing going wrong for them, and I'll explain it at the end of this section. Rare Adam? More like dumb Adam. 14. And lastly, I'm grouping these two teams together. We have Lin Vision and the Drillas. I'm gonna start with a sneaky dark horse that many people might not expect to do that well. A fan favorite, Lin Vision. Lin Vision are currently the 55th best team in the world, the 3rd best team in Asia, but honestly, I think we could argue for them being number 2 now. Atox isn't even in the RMR. Personally, I think this team is being underrated for the RMRs. You might be using logic like, oh, they just lost to Atox, so you just said they were better than, and oh, they just lost 0-2 to Passion UA, and Oh, they also just lost to
Incilio, and Favbet, and FlyQuest, and Heroic, and Navi.
You need to open your third eye. Think about this for a minute. Zacher is the best opper in all of Asia. He's probably better than every single opper in North and South America. Just look at this for a minute. A 1.22 rating over the past 3 months. I already know your immediate reaction is always just farming low-tier Chinese teams. You would be terribly mistaken. The past 3 months include matches against Navi, Heroic, and FlyQuest, all top teams, going negative in only one map against Navi. Look at these ratings against FlyQuest and Heroic. After that, he's playing tier 2 European teams like Favbat, Nexus, Ecstatic, and Incilio. Look at him against Nexus. A great opper can boost a team so much. I'm not saying he's the reincarnation of Jesus Christ, but don't sleep on this team. Next up is the actual fan favorite, Own's team, the Drillas. I love the story of this team so much. They have Waro. Not only does he have a 1.19 rating over the past 3 months, Monty hit a peak of number 6 in the world while he was calling. Clearly a very capable IGL. They have Haji, whose career achievements include playing with Scream, but his future achievements include winning the Perfect World 2024 Shanghai Major. Kavem is a young goat. Mestal's been an alright support-ish player. His most valuable asset is where he was born. Kind of a similar case with Amsalem, whose individual form actually really surprised me. Guys? Why are you imploding a month before the RMR? I really need to know more about why this happened. It just seems really strange. Amsalem tweeted that the atmosphere on the server was not the best and they had different ideas of how to approach the game. So I'm guessing him and Waro had a disagreement. I wonder how long they knew this move was gonna happen. Like, was this the reason why they had Scenari registered as a sub? Or if they were just being extra cautious because they didn't want Own to have to play? I don't know, man. I just feel I feel icky about this. I liked Amsalem. It seemed like he was playing really well. They were able to play in the Asian RMR because of Haji's dual citizenship, and then Mestal and Amsalem. So now with Scenari replacing Amsalem, they're a majority European team competing in the Asian RMR. I guess technically there were no rule breaks, but strange situation to say the least. The reason I grouped these two teams together is I feel like they're the hardest to predict. I can see them going 0-2 and bombing out, but I feel like their ceilings are high enough to where they could easily make it through. I'm going to give Lin Vision a 65% chance to make it through. And I'm sorry, Drillas, after that roster move, you're getting dropped down to a 17% chance to make it through. Best of luck to both of you. Alright fellas, here's the bracket. This is the only region we're going to be able to do this for. At the top of the bracket, we got the Mongols versus Alter Ego and Lin Vision versus the Drillas. I know Alter Ego have some exciting players, and it is a BO1, but the difference in level between these two teams is just astronomical. Unfeasibly disregardable, you know what I'm saying? This was Mongols every day of the week. This game's going to be like a dog versus a semi-truck. Lin Vision versus the Drillas. Very interesting matchup. Who will have the honor of getting stomped by the Mongols? You know what, man? I talked them up. I actually think Lin Vision lose this. Drillas are going to win this BO1. I think the Scenari sub happened early enough to where it won't be a super big deal. They'll have around 3 weeks to prac with him. And it's a BO1. We know anything can happen. In the bottom of the bracket, we have Rare Atom versus GR and FlyQuest versus Talon. Snooze Fest of the month, man. What the fuck is this? If you're wondering why I didn't explain Rare Atom at all earlier, some people were just placed on this earth to have a mortal enemy. Batman versus the Joker, the Uchihas versus the Senju clan, me versus Rare Atom. I have no reason to dislike them. They've done nothing to me, but since the day I was born, I knew they had to be my enemy. Look at these goofball names. Somebody? It is objectively true. You are somebody. Summer? That's objectively false. You are somebody, not Summer. Summer is a season, you fool. Child King? Get this freak out of my face. GR wins 13-0. You'll remember the day FlyQuest played Talon at the Asian RMR Shanghai 2024 Perfect World RMR Asian opening match. Old Australian GOAT Azur plays the new best Australian team. Who's the better IGL, Dexter or Azur? Azur's playing his old teammate Liaz. Azur and his ragtag group of fellas? Or FlyQuest and some of the best players in the whole country / continent. Hopefully this will be cinema and not a 13-4. I know some Australian fans are sad about this matchup, but I think this is a good thing. This almost guarantees one of the two Australian teams will make it through. My heart is telling me Talon, but my heart also told me GR. Sometimes you gotta let the brain do the talking. FlyQuest are winning this. The two matches for a spot in the major would be the Mongols versus the Drillas and GR versus FlyQuest. I'm not gonna waste anyone's time with these. Mongols and FlyQuest get the first 2 major spots, which puts the other 6 teams in a battle for the death. This is where I think it gets interesting. The first game would be Alter Ego versus Lin Vision. Zacher drops 87 kills in 2 maps. This won't be relatively close. Sorry, Ben Ted. More like get bent. Alter Ego's the first team out of the RMRs. Next up, we have Rare Adam versus Talon. Azure ain't going home that easy. You know who this man is? You put up the great AZR versus Child King, and you want me to pick the Child King? Rare Adam pulls an Astralis and gets 4 rounds in 2 maps. Next up, we have a rematch. Lin Vision versus the Drillas again. And I'm sorry. I love them, you love them, everyone loves them. You're not beating Lin Vision in a BO3. A BO1 was a different story, but I can't take you twice. Unfortunately, we missed out on own stickers, but it was a hell of a ride. And then we have GR versus Talon. GR's lucky they played Rare Adam in the first round. The great AZR will not allow them to continue any further. So that gives us Lin Vision versus Talon for a spot in the major. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I really want to pick Talon, but we've all overlooked something. This tournament is a home game for Lin Vision, and the home team boost is a real thing. I mean, look at Furia at IEM Rio but we're not to that point yet. It's still early. And we're not playing regular Valve CS here, ladies and gentlemen. This is Perfect World CS. The Lin Vision players have played on this their entire lives. Is it fundamentally different than regular CS? No, not really. But Perfect World will rig this game if they have to. For the first ever major in China, not having a Chinese team would be sad. So fucking A, Lin Vision are cooking this game. I'm sorry, the great AZR, but you're going home. So those are my predictions for the Asian RMR. The Mongols, FlyQuest, and Lin Vision all make it through. A very bold take to put the top 3 teams through. What can I say? I'm a little bit of a risk taker. Alright, let's move on to Goofball Town. Literally any single one of these teams can make it through. Well, besides probably Crew and Case. Those guys, they're dog shit. I'm sorry, okay? Listen, they're not dog shit, okay? That was a little toxic. They're just not as good as the other teams in here. So to keep this video from being 8 hours long, I'm gonna skim over the teams I think have no chance to make it through, which for me is Boss, Crew, and Case. I wish the best for the Boss boys. I mean, it would be cool if they did. They're not an organization, so they don't get paid to do this at all, which means getting stickers would be huge for them. I just don't see it happening. Next up, Crew. Listen, I don't have anything against Crew. They are just simply worse than every other team here. They've been playing in the ESL South American Challenger League, lost both maps to Bestia, another team in here, lost both maps to MIBR, lost both maps to Pain. Like, they're okay, but they're not going to be beating these better teams. Case is kind of in the same boat. Their best player, Snow, got sniped by Pain. Urbano, I think is how you say his name, one of those two, has done a decent job replacing him. I actually like him and Nizen together. I think they're a fairly good rifling duo, but they're just not a good enough team. So I'm giving all 3 of these a 1% chance to make it through. I won't make it 0 because you never know, but I would be incredibly surprised. Next up, let's rip the teams that are guaranteed to go through. I'm going to say Liquid, Furia, and Complexity. Write it down. These are all 100%. We had some fuck shit last year where Liquid didn't make it and Complexity did. We have an extra spot this year. I think Liquid is better now. This will not happen again. We have an extra spot this year. My ass not on the team. But yeah, all 3 of these teams are in the same category for me. They're a little wishy-washy against top tier competition, but they should be fine in this. Now, here are the teams that should make it through, but you never know. Starting off with Pain. Listen, I wanted to put Pain in the guaranteed teams to make it through. I really did. They're currently the 14th best team in the world, and like theoretically they should be a lock to make it through, but like let's say they get upset in the first BO1, right? Then they go down and have to play Bestia, Red Canids, Imperial, and a BO3. I think they're better than all of those teams, but they're not a lock to win. They've been fairly hot lately, winning 5 of their past 6 matches at the ESL Challenger League, but they can also lose to Fluxo. Red Candids took a map off of them. They got O2'd by Bestia, but at the end of the day, Big Uzera might be the best IGL in all of South America right now. I love Snow. He brings so much energy to that team, and he's a very good player. He is completely playing out of his comfort zone in this team. They just tossed him into the roles they needed, and they were not at all the roles he was playing on Case. He's still doing a good job. Lux and Kawas are both very solid riflers. NQZ is a great opper. He does tend to fall off against top 20 teams, but I'm not too concerned. Pain should absolutely make it through, but they're not a lock. And honestly, in the same category as Pain, I would also put MIBR. They're both kind of in the tier right under the locks. They just had a great run at EPL Season 20. And what I didn't realize that some people pointed out in the comments of my EPL recap video is Exit isn't actually calling for this team anymore. Now it's a drop, which apparently is exactly what they needed. We'll have to wait and see if they're consistently that good with him calling, but they did look a lot better. Insani has a 1.2 rating over the past 3 months, 92 firepower, 90 opening. He is just elite. Safe has always been kind of up and down for me. In most of his recent matches, he's been very good, but he'll also just have an off game where he does nothing, and that is very bad for an AWPer. They're currently the 15th ranked team in the world, and to be fair, I would probably take him over Fallen, at least mechanically, and Story on Saw. Probably current day Dexter on Heroic. I don't think I'd want him over any other AWPer on the top 20 teams, so I don't really think he elevates MIBR, but I don't think he makes them worse. He fits in pretty well. Then again, he did just destroy M80 at EPL and go 30-8, so. But the map right after that, he went 13-11. In the series before that against Heroic, he went 10-16, 12-14, and 14-10. Like, not elite numbers for an AWPer, but he's good enough. They also just added Luca Ozzy, which I think is an absolute elite pickup. He replaced their worst player. At least on paper, it's an elite pickup. I am a little concerned with his roles on the team. He was that star player on Fluxo, and if you look at his stats, right before leaving Fluxo, it's just green. He was fucking elite. And there is a lot of red as soon as you switch to MIBR. I'm not going to hold it against him or the team too much. Like, you have to get him integrated first. He's not going to feel super comfortable right off the bat. Insani is their star player. He's always going to be their star player, so hopefully it doesn't cause any issues for him. MIBR and Pain both get an 85% chance to make it out. So if those 5 teams were to make it out, that leaves us with 2 spots. And I could see any of the rest of these teams making it out. Let's start off with 9Z. Gentlemen, what has happened since Dallas? You're a dope mix of South American talent. And Martinez from Spain, of course. When you think of South American teams, you think of Brazil. And it's been that way for basically ever. So it's cool to see a team outside of Brazil gaining traction, but it was only traction for one event. I want to see more out of them. I wish I could put them in the Pain MIBR category, but they just aren't there right now. They bombed out of EPL Season 20. Didn't make it through the Gambling Cup qualifier. Bombed out of IEM Cologne in last place. They just bombed out of IEM Rio as well. A 13-3 loss to Vitality, and they lost 2-1 to VP, losing 2-13 on the third map. I do like that they've been boot camping in Spain. I think boot camping in Europe is a good idea for any team. It's basically the hub for Counter-Strike esports. With all of that being said, they're definitely one of the better teams in this tier. Martinez and DGT are like the South American Great Value Monesi and Nico. Actually, after IEM Rio, Nico's the Great Value DGT. 9Z gets a 65% chance to make it through. Next up is M80. This is going to be biased as fuck. I love M80. I was a Cloud9 fan when I first started watching Counter-Strike, and ever since their horrible collapse post-Boston, where they would end up making the goofiest fucking rosters I've ever seen, I still supported them all the way up to like the DAPS 10s. And then I stopped watching for a little bit. They had the Extra Salt roster for like a month. Then they went full Russian, and now they have Heavy God and Icy. I don't even recognize this team anymore. So I've been a fan of no team for quite a while, but this M80, man, they're gaining my loyalty. They're actually building an exciting and young roster. They're taking risks on young talent like Lake and Mulbs. They're not just recycling the same players I've seen for 40 years. So yeah, M80 are sick, man. I like them. And if they don't make it through this RMR, I will be heartbroken. They do seem a little inconsistent. I think a part of that stems from how inconsistent Lake is. He's great, but look at these previous matches. In back-to-back matches against the same team, he has a 1.72 and a 0.89. He did the same thing against Legacy with a 1.71 and a 0.32. I get that he's fairly young and new to the roster, and I think there is a lot of extra pressure due to the fact that he's replacing Mulbs, which is just nearly an impossible void to fill. But if he can raise his floor and just be a little more consistent, this team can compete. Plus, I love his energy.
Look at me.
The trash talking is good. except it can backfire. At ESL Challenger Atlanta, they beat Wildcard and he was shit-talking JBA saying you're so scared on LAN. And then Wildcard would come back around and eliminate them from the tournament, which is a little tough. Other than Lake, I think the rest of this roster is pretty strong. Sin has been developing very well as a caller. I also love Def as the coach. From what I've heard, he's been huge in helping Sin develop. Along with being a good caller, he's also fragging. Rek and Swisher are both fine. If Lake shows up to play this RMR, I like them to go through. We'll have to see if that happens or not, but I'd give them about a 65% chance to make it through. Next up, we have Imperial. We saw what they can do with the last major. They didn't make it to playoffs, but they were an exciting team to watch. They've been pretty quiet at S-tier events recently, but they are still fairly dominant in South America. But yeah, I mean, Imperial are decent. I like Try. I'm not sure he's that much of an upgrade over Henny, though. You know, it could be Try has a better attitude. That's just he works better with the team. Who knows? At least performance-wise, it doesn't seem like that much of an upgrade to me. I'll give Imperial like a 35% chance to make it through. They're alright, but I think they're the 5th best team in South America right now. They're gonna have to upset someone to make it through. Next up, I'm gonna group all of these teams together. Legacy, Nouns, Wildcard, and Red Candids. I could see any of these teams sneak through, but I don't think they're better than any of the other teams I listed. But I could definitely see them upset in some of these BO1s. And let's say in the BO3 advancement game, they play someone they know well. That's where it can get scary. Like Red Candids play Furia, Wildcard play M80 again. These are all like feasible scenarios to me. Nouns are pretty dominant in the NA scene. They do get stomped by Legacy every time they play. And I really don't think Carson is a very strong caller. The rest of the players on the team are fine. Rush, CJ, George, you know, all decent riflers. Junior's the greatest tier 2 omper in history. Just don't put him up against a team in the top 40. You know, I always think Nouns are going to do something because they look good in the NA scene. Like, these are fairly dominant results, but like there are no impressive wins. One map win against M80. Like I said before, they just cannot beat Legacy to save their lives. They're also 1-3 against Wildcard in the last 4 games. Actually, bro, what am I doing? I'm calling an audible. Move Nouns down. I can't accept this. How can I have them in the same tier as teams that just own them? Alright, we're moving on from this. I don't know what I was thinking. Let's talk about the team that owns them, Legacy. Legacy don't have Coldzera for this major run. I still think they're a great team, to be honest. Du Mao is an animal on the rifle. Holy shit, Lado's been cooking too. I also just love the addition of Sads into this team. Easily the standout player on W7M. Yeah, man, this team could absolutely sneak through. I don't know what I was thinking, putting Nouns in the same category as them. Legacy get like a 40% to make it through. Next up is Wildcard. We have to address something. JBA is insane in online games. I mean, just look at this, man. Ouch! If we get a good JBA, sure, they can make it through. I love Stan as a caller. Susp and Sonic can both pop off. We saw what Fuzi's capable of at EPL. But at the end of the day, it's gonna come down to JBA. It's really just that simple. They might be able to upset in a BO1 without him, but if they're gonna make it through, he has to play like he does online. I'll give Wildcard a 22% chance to make it through. If you're actually good and the young NA prodigy that people say you are, you will show up for this event, JBA. Good luck. Next up is Red Candids. The thing with Red Candids, at least in South America, they can beat anyone, they can lose to anyone. Recently, it's been more of the losing option, but they can also beat Pain and Imperial on a good day. And I think that's a lot of what this RMR is going to come down to. They don't seem like a very strategic team, but are more based off individual form. Coldzera and Henny can pop off. Venom Zera and David are both great. There was a time a couple months ago where David would literally not go under 20 kills in a map. If their players are on for this RMR, they can beat anyone besides Liquid. But like you saw earlier, that has not been the case recently. I'll give them like a 30% chance to make it through. Better odds than Wildcard for sure. They might be the most volatile and interesting team in this entire RMR. They're either going 0-2 or 3-0. And the last tier is teams I don't think have a 0% chance to make it through, but it's very unlikely. Bestia and new addition Nouns. We already talked about Nouns. You know what, actually? Nah, I'm disgusted, man. Beating up on Mythic and Revenge Nation. Besides M80, when is the last time they played a top 30 shitty team. It deadass was the Copenhagen RMR, and they came in last place. Nah, I can't let this slide. Audible? I'm audibling them to the lowest tier. Have fun with Crew and Case. The only team in this tier is Bestia. Bestia have been in a fucking heater lately. The thing with Bestia is I feel like they're the complete opposite of a team like Red Candids. They have a higher floor. They're more consistent. I think Noxe is a better color than Nithon. They have a better system, and he can be more consistent with worse players. The issue is a lot of these teams they're beating are not very good. And while I do think they have a higher floor than Red Candids, I think their ceiling is much lower. They just don't have the same firepower. It's kind of like a Mongols versus G2 in a sense. And I do think Bestia is going to struggle against the better teams in this RMR. I could see him maybe winning a BO1 and then going out like 1 and 2. I'd be very surprised if they made it through, but yeah, I guess it's not impossible.
6.
All right, here's the final look at all of the teams, their categories, and their percentages. Up at the top, we have the teams that will make it through. You have my word. This is a guarantee. Then we have the Surely category. I'd be a little geeked if they didn't make it through. Then 9Z and M80. I like them to make it through. We have Legacy, Imperial, Red Candids, and Wildcard all with their percentages. Dark Horse, Bestia below them. The Stinkers. So we have all of this. But what about in practice? I said we'd only be able to do that for the Asian RMR. You got lied to, buddy. Don't believe everything you hear on the internet. All right, I think the easiest way to do this is just raw dogging it. So dog it raw, we will. This is a simulator for all of the matches. We're just gonna rip through this really quick to see if I actually agree with the percentages I just listed. Round 1, this will be fairly simple. The only thing that I could see is maybe Red Candids beat 9Z, but I'm not that bold. M80 will be beating Complexity. I'm sorry to say. Red Candids are beating Nouns. That's the only changes I'll make on that. Furia M80, Liquid Pain, that stays. Complexity beats Red Candids. 9Z beats Bestia. MIBR Wildcard. I think Legacy beats Imperial. I think these stay the same. Pain Legacy, Pain wins that. M80, MIBR, MIBR wins that. Complexity 9Z, Complexity wins. Imperial Boss stays the same. Wildcard Noun stays the same. Bestia, Red Candids. Sorry, I've been saying Red Candids. They're Red Canids. Bestia did just destroy Red Canids. I don't give a damn. M80, Red Canids. M80 wins. 9Z Imperial, 9Z wins. Legacy Wildcard, Legacy wins. So for the decider, you have 9Z versus Legacy. Call me crazy. I'm picking Legacy. So we'd have Liquid Furia going through 3-0, Pain MIBR Complexity going through 3-1, and M80 Legacy 9Z going through 3-2. Oh wait, so no, actually 9Z wouldn't make it, Legacy would. So I have Legacy over 9Z. Is that bold? Possibly. I like this. This looks good to me. Sorry for Wildcard, Imperial, Red Candids, Bestia, Nouns, Boss, Crew, and Case. You guys are cooked. Alright, time for the Demon. For starters, we gotta take out the trash. It's getting a little messy and cramped in here. Unity, shit. Rebels, shit. Eclot, shit. Paravision, shit. Now that we have that out of the way, let's scrub the kitchen counters. We got some crumbs laying around. I wouldn't call it garbage, but we gotta clean it up even still. Namiga, goodbye. Aurora, goodbye. 9 Pandas, goodbye. Sashi, goodbye. TSM, goodbye. I'm sorry if you wanted to hear me talk about one of those teams. It was a little cutthroat. I feel like we'd just be wasting our time. If any of the 9 teams I just listed make it through, I will genuinely make a full apology video. You have my word. The 32 teams in Europe are split into 2 groups, RMR A and RMR B, and I know we love the underdog stories, but out of these 16 teams in both groups, only 7 go through. So for Group A, if Na'Vi, Vitality, Mouse, FaZe, Falcons all go through, that leaves us with 2 spots. Most of the teams I just brought up are not going to sniff one of those 2 spots, and especially with Group B, if G2, Spirit, Eternal Fire, Virtus Pro, Heroic, and Astralis all make it, that leaves us with 1 more spot and 10 teams fighting for it. We just had to cut off some of the fat. I could see one of the teams I listed fluking their way through, but no more than that. So I'm comfortable doing this. Starting off with Group A, the 2 titans of this group are Na'Vi and Vitality. They both will be making it through 100%. Na'Vi have made 6 finals in a row and are easily the best team in the world. I'm pretty comfortable saying JL's a top 5 player in the world. He's still not top 3 though, guys. Let's not get too crazy. And I say this even with Donk sliding. JL would actually have to drop a 1.5 rating, win the tournament, and win MVP to pass him up. And Donk would have to be complete garbage and drop out of the RMR. Let's just be realistic here, fellas. That shit is not happening. Probably number 4 though. Vitality are the 3rd best team in the world. I would argue and say they're probably the 2nd, but they do have a little bit of a playoff choking problem. Vitality and Zywoo farm group stages though. This won't be an issue for them. them. My very crazy bold take, Zaiwu will be the highest rated player in the RMR, with another teammate in the top 5 with him. Next tier I'd say pretty comfortably is Mouse and FaZe. Mouse looked to be back in form. Jimfat just had an elite IEM Rio. Every single player on this team can pop off and take over a map. And to be honest, I think their choking problem in front of crowds is gone. They played Furia in Rio. I can't imagine a more hostile environment than that. And I think they lost to Na'Vi not because of that, just because Na'Vi is the better team. Mouse are just kind of a mini Na'Vi with 5% of the aura. Or are they more of a mini FaZe, who have been a little shaky lately? I was watching one of Thorin's podcast and he said FaZe were not going to make it through the RMR. Actually, no, it's fucking Kassad.
FaZe is not making the major.
Look at their reactions, bro. Brother's lost his marbles. I know FaZe have been a little shaky lately, but look at the teams they've lost to. They lost to Mouse. Understandable. Na'Vi. Okay. G2. Yeah, sure. Complexity and Sangal. We're done looking at this. I would be absolutely mind blown if FaZe did not make it through. Kerrigan is too good of a caller. This team has too good of individuals to drop out. And when's the last time FaZe has missed the major? The answer is never, I think. Mouse and FaZe get a 97% chance to make it through. Now we get to the exciting wildcard teams. Falcons, man. Are they good? Is everyone happy Simple's back? Fuck yeah, dude. God, I love Simple. Oh, I just want to rip his clothes. Yeah, no, it's cool that he's back. I'm recording this before they play their first official with him, so it could look atrocious, but man, fuck it, we ball. The rest of this team, the other 4 players, we've seen them. No need to talk about them. Snore, yawn, I'm falling asleep. I give Falcons a 70% chance to make it through because Simple is cool and dope. Seems like good analysis to me. Emergency edit. I completely underestimated how dog shit this team is. They just bombed out of Thunderpick. Simple looked great. The rest of this team is just unsavable. They're getting dropped down to a 15%. I can't believe I put him at 70. Next up, let's talk about Saw. Yeah, Saw's great, man. You fucking gremlins, what is this? It looks like Dose and the Gorg have some beef, or he has beef with someone else in the team. This has to be some type of internal issue. It makes no sense for the org or him to do this move before the RMR. I know he wanted to leave at the end of the year, but we still got a major to play, boys. I don't like this petty stuff going on. Their coach too, 4%. Dose on G2 is gonna be fucking cinema. BetBoom, you have no idea how much I wanted to put them in the shit category, but they've actually been kind of good lately. I just feel like every game I've watched them play, they just get 13-6. Maybe I'm just watching them on their worst days possible. This entire team just screams Subway to me. You know, you go to Subway and it's like you make the sandwich. It's gonna be pretty good, but it's not like you're creaming eating the sub. Side note, why the fuck do no Subways have butter anymore? You know, people still eat butter, right, Subway? They're the Subway of Counter-Strike team, 63%. Next up, Cloud9. I think of gum on chew when I think of Cloud9. One day you were a beautifully packaged, nice wrapped piece of clean gum, probably watermelon flavored. No, I'm not talking about the electronic top 8 team. They were probably when the gum was getting chewed. The cleanly wrapped nice gum was when they won Boston. Then they got spit out and stepped on by a boot. That's this team right now. When they made this new roster, I thought they could be sleeper good. Heavy God was a beast on OG. I like Icy. Instead, we got Let's Lose to Passion UA and Gaming Gladiators Cloud9. But then at the same time, they go on streaks like this and this. I know playing in tier 2 can be a little brutal. You're gonna get inconsistent results, but the Inters pickup was a monumental L. Other than that, I actually really like the other 4 players on this team. It's been an Axile, Heavy God, Icy carry the past 3 months. Axile number 4 feels like 8 years ago. He still would be a top player if he stayed on Gambit, but Cloud9 is cursed. This team kind of reminds me of Sub. I'm giving him straight 50. Fnatic is so interesting to me. At this point, they are just a random 5 stack of European talent. Well, I mean talent from like 4 to 7 to 8 years ago, depending on the player. And Maddie's, of course, who's probably their best player. The Blame F Maddie's rifle combo could have saved lives, changed the balance of the universe, but I'm not sure that'll be the case. I mean, this crew could be a wild card in the RMR. A deep run could certainly help Crimson Body's legacies, but if their recent matches are any indication, it looks like they're just gonna be in for pain. Blame F did come back at EPL Season 120 and beat Astralis, which almost just brings a tear to my eye, 55%. Next, I'm grouping Gamer Legion, Sangal, and Sinners all together. Out of all like the tier 2 lower name brand teams, I would be the least surprised if one of these teams snuck through. I could totally see him scoop up a spot over like BetBoom, Fnatic, Cloud9. I gotta talk about Gamer Legion though, because man, I really like what they're doing, but Andu leaving makes me really sad. From the few Gamer Legion games I watched with him, he seemed really good. I thought he was a great player at least, but I understand if there were, you know, some role problems or there were just some differences on the team. Things are always more complicated than just on paper. I really hope he finds success at another team. Then again, the guy who's replacing them is their best player over the past 3 months, so what do I know? This team is quite literally just a budget mouse, and I fuck with it a lot. Slend used to always hard carry endpoint. He's a very good tier 2 AWPer. I could totally see him getting sniped by someone else after this major. Flamus used to always hard carry Namiga. ZTR was a pretty good IGL and Metasport. They would just upset teams out of nowhere. When he was calling for them, they peaked at number 29 in the world. As of right now, they're all the way down to 81. Clearly, he knew what he was doing. They just tanked as soon as he left. So they just snagged some hard carries in the tier 2 scene. A good tier 2 IGL. On paper, they literally made a tier 2 super team, which I think is dope, to be honest. I want them to make it through, but realistically, they probably have like a 45% chance. A little below Fnatic and Cloud9, but not by too much. We all learned about Sangal when they upset FaZe. Another tier 2 mix of European talent. After that tournament, they've been pretty much dominating in tier 2 again, so I would not be surprised if they also made it through. God, this is going to be so entertaining to watch. So many different teams can make it through. Recently, they've been getting carried by their 2 Turkish players. I promise you, Eternal Fire's keeping an eye on that. It's a little weird to see their AWPer so low. That's a little concerning for me, but I guess if you win, you win. It doesn't really matter. Their IGL LNZ has been around for a while. I think he's pretty good at calling. Well, I guess not that long, but a couple years. He was on this absolutely cursed NIP roster that somehow won a tournament, and their logo is dope, so another 50%. I just cannot split these teams up. They're all such coin flips. Lastly, Sinners. They were the story of the qualifier for the RMR because Oscar dropped a 2.07 rating. Jesus Christ. Guys, he just simply cannot keep that up for an RMR against tier 1 teams, right? The past few months, he's been more normal, dropping a 1.15, and I'm really not that fond of the rest of this team. They're dope because they're all from Czech Republic, plus respect points for 5 people from the same country, but I don't know, man. I certainly could see them making it through, but they are just so incredibly inconsistent. They have been losing quite a bit lately. Their IGL is B-Stick, and I don't think he's very good, honestly. It really was just that Oscar insane performance to get them through the RMR qualifier. They're not strategically very deep. Shock and Morisco can pop off, but meh. I'll give him a 27% chance to make it through. So to recap all of the percentages, we have the guarantees at the top, Na'Vi and Vitality, followed by FaZe and Mouse, who are nearly guarantees. Then it kind of all becomes a shit show. Gambling Site team at 63, Fnatic, Cloud9, Sangal, and Gamer Legion all from 55 to 45%. Oscar below them at 27, Falcons in Portugal, and then all the teams I disgraced. Now let's speedrun a bracket to see what I actually think will happen. Okay guys, I just speedran this. Somehow Sinners made it through 3-1. The final teams I have is Na'Vi, Mouse, Vitality, FaZe, Sinners, Sangal, and BetBoom. Falcons out, Cloud9 out, Fnatic out, Saw out. I mean, eesh. Gamer Legion barely missed. The only reason Sinners make it through, I have them upsetting Saw in the first round. It's like the only upset I did. Then all of these is just favorites winning. All of these just favorites winning. I could see Cloud9 beating Namiga, but I think Namiga win that, even though I shit on them earlier. Na'Vi, Mouse winning these. I know Vitality's goated, but, you know, oh well. I think Mouse might be better right now, to be honest. Then Sinners and Namiga play in the 1-1 game, and then they play Falcons. I mean, they just basically get a free ride through. If they upset Saw, they genuinely get a free ride. It's insane. While Group A is a lot more top-heavy, I think Group B is a lot more well-rounded, which I think is a lot worse for the teams in it, at least the lower-ranked teams in it. In Group A, I could see 3 spots being fought for. In Group B, I see 1, maybe 2 spots that it will be open, which is why I'm okay being a lot more cutthroat with more of the teams in here. It's just going to be brutal. For starters, we have the teams that I have guaranteed to make it through: G2, Spirit, and and Eternal Fire. To be honest with you, I feel most comfortable with Spirit and Eternal Fire, but even though G2 are kind of up and down, there is just no way they bomb out of this. Even if everyone in the team turns their brains off, Mondesi can still 1v9 and carry them to a 3-2 at the worst. I don't care that maybe Snacks and Taz aren't great leaders. I don't care they're inconsistent. I don't care that strategically they might be equivalent to cavemen. The players on this team are just so fucking good. Any of them can drop 25 kills in a match. There's just no way Nico and Hunter are this dog shit again at the RMR. It's just impossible they don't make it through. And if by some chance they were to flounder, dear God, I don't even want to imagine a world. Spirit's downfall has been greatly exaggerated. Are they as good as they were at their peak? Absolutely not. But this team's floor is still so high. At the Blast Fall final, they lost to a G2 that was on Demon Time and won the tournament. And a Liquid that, listen guys, Liquid is a good team, okay? And they lost 11-13 and 10-13. It's not like it was blowouts. The one map they won, they did blow Liquid out 13-3. And look at ESL Pro League. They lost to Na'Vi. Ignore this. I know they can look a little shaky in some of these games, like the wildcard match, but they're still winning. And at the end of the day, they are better than every single tier 2 team. That shouldn't even be up for debate. This will be a light work run for them. Now, regarding Donk. Donk is still elite, okay? I know he's been sliding a little bit. Over the past month, he still has a 1.15, 95 firepower, which is still better than, let me check, Wonderful, Gymfat, Emo, Bit, Sphinx, Flames, Frozen, and he's tied with JL and Robs, and that's with the top 20 filter on. Over the past 3 months, he has a 1.32 with 100 firepower. Now, if you do put the top 10 filter on, he drops to a 1.17, which puts him way below Mondesi and ZywOo, but still at number 3. I'm not arguing he's the best player in the world. He probably is worse than Mondesi and ZywOo right now, but he is still a very good player, a very good top 3 player. Just don't put on the top 5 filter. Eternal Fire are very good. At EPL, they beat everyone and just lost to Na'Vi, who they barely lost to in the finals. They got a little bit curb stomped at IEM Rio, but I'll allow one fluke bombing out tournament. They barely lost to Astralis 11-13, beat G2, and then lost to Mongols. A loss to Mongols is nothing to be ashamed of. Zonteras and Woxic have been in a heater lately. When they're both playing well, this team can beat anyone in the world. I think Wakadia and Calyx are fine. It's not like they're weighing the team down at all, and they can always have their pop-off moments. Calyx is more of a support player anyways. At this point, Wakadia doesn't really look like a young star. He just looks pretty good, which I think is fine for them. But if they don't make the top 8, I certainly could see them looking at other options, because let's just be honest, if they don't make the playoffs of the major, it'll be a massive disappointment for this team. Maybe they go and snipe a Sangal player, who knows. I know xCloud was already on the team and he was benched, so it probably wouldn't be him. They could try out Jot. Major's great, incredible in-game leader, and he never lights up the scoreboard, but I feel like the kills he gets are always very impactful. Winning a clutch, winning a 1v1, closing a round, plus giant respect points because they're all 5 guys from the same country. And the Turkish watch parties are so sick. All 100%, no doubt in my mind. Next tier includes Virtus Pro and Heroic. Virtus Pro has been very disappointing lately, but they did make the playoffs at IEM Rio, and I feel like the way they play, it's just really hard for worse teams to beat them. Currently, they're ranked at number 11 in the world, and I feel like that's a fair place to put them. They're always going to lose to teams that are better than them, and they always can get upset, but it's not super likely. At Thunderpick, OG just beat them, but I like what OG's doing. I don't think that's as bad of a loss as it might seem. Like at EPL, they beat Red Candids, Falcons, and Furia and lost to Liquid and Heroic, which I feel like is just another case of them beating teams that are worse than them and losing to teams that are better than them. And in this RMR, a majority of the teams they're going to be playing are going to be worse than them, so I don't think it'll be too terribly hard for them to make it through. They're just a very stable, boring team, I guess. Heroic, on the other hand, are a little bit more exciting for me. I feel like they have a similar-ish floor to VP, but a much higher ceiling. I think they can upset teams that are better than them. They just had a great run at IEM Rio, made playoffs, and quite frankly, could have beaten Na'Vi, maybe in a different universe. But to be honest with you, what opened my eyes even more is the match they played against Bait. I'm fairly high on Bait as a tier 2 team, and you'll hear about them a little more later, but they comfortably beat them in that BO3. And throughout the majority of this year, Heroic have not been great, but I think this shows there still is a gap, even if it is shrinking, between tier 1 and tier 2. A lower ranked tier 1 team versus a pretty good tier 2 team, and it was not really that close. I was impressed, and it gives me confidence that Heroic will not really be getting upset at this RMR. They seem to be really catching form as of late, and quite honestly, it just couldn't come at a better time. So I'm pretty comfortable putting both of these teams in this tier. Both safe choices, but Heroic has a much higher ceiling in my opinion. 80% for both. Next tier is 3D Max and Astralis. It feels strange putting these teams in the same tier. And to be quite honest with you, it might be disrespectful to 3D Max. I'd call 3D Max more of a tier 1.75 team, if that even exists. I think they're better than almost every tier 2 team, but just aren't tier 1. And I think they're just a little bit worse than like tier 1.5 teams. Overall, they deserve their respect though. They just cooked Falcons in OG. They played all of the teams I already dismissed. Surely those 2 Namiga games won't come back to bite me. Over the past 3 months, every single player on their team has a positive rating. Maka is great as an opper, and if you didn't know, he's actually calling for them too. I think he's doing a fine job. All of these players are good. They don't really have a weak link. Instead of that, it's just any single one of their players can go completely missing in a map. But everyone on the team is quality enough to keep the team's results fairly consistent. Overall, a pretty good team. I'd be a little surprised if they didn't make it through. I hope Astralis doesn't make it through. They're either sneaking through like 3-2 or completely bombing. Device has been terrible since KDN joined. The other 3 riflers have been fine. I think he'll mesh with them a lot better than Device. It sounds like in his systems, it's his way or the highway, which is great for younger, unexperienced talent, but not a man like Device. There's just no way this works out. And you know what? The more I think about it, this is disrespectful to 3D Max. They've beaten Eternal Fire in a BO1 and have done what else? I know they'll have time to prepare, but if KDN and Device can't mesh, I just don't see how this team can win a BO3. Your star opper can't just be bottom fragging every game. So you know what, actually? Astralis is getting replaced by Big. I don't think it's criminal to say that Big's not really a tier 1 team right now either. I'd say like they're tier 1.5, just slightly better than 3D Max. I really like the pieces they have, so it's sad to see they can't achieve more. They lost in the finals of ESL Challenger Atlanta to FlyQuest, which was a great series. I wouldn't be ashamed of anything. They beat Saw when they had their actual team still. They pretty comfortably cooked M80, but then right before that, they lost to Ecstatic and Monty. Although I'm always going to take a LAN result over a tier 2 online result. They beat Complexity at Pro League, barely lost to the Mongols. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty comfortable in saying Big should make it through. The Rigon edition, I think, was very good for them. He brings some great energy to this team. I would say the big question I have is Searson. He looked atrocious for the longest time this year, and then they added Tao B as a performance coach, and he is great again. But I don't know, man. Over the past 3 months, he's still been mediocre for opper numbers. And I just think if this team added some crackhead 17-year-old opper, their ceiling would be so much higher. Now, of course, there's no like Monacy prodigies out there right now, but I think a flashy elite level opper would actually help this team so much. As in like break into the top 10 help. Sun Pius maybe? I know they want to mostly stay German, and I think Rigon does speak German, so adding an English speaking opper could be an issue, but I don't see any young and up and coming German oppers, so just send it guys, come on. Both of these teams get a 60%. Next are 2 sleeper teams that might not be as well known as all of the other teams, but they've been very good in the tier 2 scene lately, and that's Bait and Passion UA, 2 Ukrainian squads, and I am very high on both of these teams. Starting with Bait, they're the 30th ranked team in the world right now. They nearly always do well in qualifiers. They won CCT Series 10, and I'm sure most of you know who Headtrick and NPL are. NPL had that stint on Navi and Headtrick was on NIP, and let me tell you what, they deserve their shot in tier 1. They've been frying people in the tier 2 circuit lately. NPL is their best player over the past 3 months with a 1.18 rating. He's also the in-game leader for this team. Just an absolute animal, to be honest. Headtrick has a 1.15. He's looked completely rejuvenated on this team. I mean, he wasn't an IP, so it's understandable. Along with them, the other 3 riflers on this team are very solid, especially Alex. He's been great as of late. At the last event they played, they made the playoffs over 9Z and NIP, but they did get beaten pretty comfortably by the Mongols and Heroic, so I am a little concerned for them if they have to play actual tier 1 teams, but if they get lucky like the Sinners did in the last bracket, they can absolutely make it through. Passion UA is the 44th best team in the world, and they've also been just tearing through tier 2 lately. Their in-game leader is Fear, who was on the Navi Academy team a couple years ago. Their Alper Jambo was pretty brutal to start the year, but since May, he's actually been insane. He's improved tremendously over the course of this year. Along with him, Jack Asmo is typically their star rifler, with Zero Fix and S Chilla kind of being more support players, but they can also occasionally pop off. I love how this team's constructed, and I would not be surprised at all if they upset some teams and actually made a run. I'm giving both of these teams at 25% to make it through. Yeah, you two are below the shit tier. All right, here's the final percentages for each of these teams. Goats at the top, followed by semi-goats, followed by Big and 3D Max, followed by Maybe, followed by Dog, followed by even Dog Ear, and them. I don't know what the fuck I cooked up here. I have Eternal Fire G2 going through at 3-0, Spirit Heroic 3D Max at 3-1, and Big and Passion UA going through at 3-2. I have Astralis missing, Bait missing, Sashi missing, Virtus Pro missing, NIP, TSM, 9 Pandas, Aurora, and Perivision. Now that all of that is over, there's only one more thing left to do, and that's pick a winner. There are a lot of really good options here. The favorites in Navi, probably the second favorites in Vitality. We have an abundance of dark horses, Mouse, FaZe, G2, Spirit, Eternal Fire, maybe a generational tournament run from the Mongols or Team Liquid. But I know who in my heart I need to win this tournament, and that's G2. Nico and Monacy need their major. I know they've won a bunch of tier 1 tournaments, but was this Nico Monacy project in G2 a success if they don't get at least one major trophy? I might have to argue no. Monacy might have been the greatest prospect in Counter-Strike history. People knew since he was 14 years old he would be just a generational superstar. So G2 put their dick on the table, signed him, and my God, did it work out. And Nico might be the greatest rifler in Counter-Strike history. He's been in the top 20 every single year since 2016. Look at these top 20s. He's got the trophy sliding bar, but the one thing that has eluded him his entire career is that major trophy. I need to see this before they split up. He very well might win a trophy when he goes to Falcon. And to be honest, I don't know what happens if he does win a major with G2, because maybe he doesn't leave to go to Falcons then. I just think this is the greatest and most entertaining outcome possible. So my pick for the 2024 Shanghai major winner is G2. If you guys made it this far in the video, that has led me to two conclusions. One, you love Counter-Strike esports. And two, you don't mind my yapping. So why don't we make watching Counter-Strike a little bit more entertaining? I love playing fantasy on HLTV, but it doesn't really have that edge. Of course, you can join the HLTV group and maybe win a skin, but listen, I'm a fantasy football player, and half of the fun in that is shit-talking everyone who's in your league. Blowing one of your friends out or talking shit before a game and getting blown out yourself is also kind of funny. So I want to add that edge to Counter-Strike. If you go and follow my Twitter, you'll see a Twitter community on my profile. If you join that group, I'll be posting and pinning every single group that I start on HLTV Fantasy, so we can all play against each other and see who comes out on top. You can post your teams before the game start, you can shit talk other people's teams, anything. I just want to add that extra edge and make it more fun for everyone. And who knows, if enough people do this, maybe we can get our little sponsor Skins Monkey to give a little skins away for the winners. I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, if this sounds fun to you guys at all, or you just want a more personable experience on HLTV Fantasy, go follow me on Twitter and join that community. We'll rip it for Blast, we'll rip it for the major of course, and we'll just start shit talking each other. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know it was long, but I appreciate anyone who made it this far, and I'll see you guys in the next one.